Welcome to Wisco Dice! I'm your host, the Conesy with the Most, and I am joined today by...
Hey, this is Justin, the Meeples champion.
I am Ghostwalker.
And I'm Suzanne.
This is episode 132 of the Wisco Dice Tabletop Gaming Podcast! Today is September 25th, 2024, and on today's episode, we're going to play a little trick or trivia. But first, let's roll into the games that we have been playing. First up on our games that we've been playing is Age of Innovation from Capstone Games and Feurerland Speile. Age of Innovation is the latest in the Terra Mystica family of games, where you're terraforming lands, you're doing bunches of things where you're spending tools and scholars and all sorts of things to try to score a boatload of points over the course of 6 rounds to try to outscore your opponents. Now, we've played this a few times. I think all of us have had a chance to play Age of Innovation at least once, if not twice or a couple more times than that. It is rapidly crept up to being my favorite game. And one of the things that I love about this one that makes it, I think, just eke out Terra Mystica has been my long-term favorite game of all time, is the fact that the variable player setup at the beginning with boards that have different factions associated with the land type boards makes it and that's a dynamic thing that changes up every time you play, means that you can't just sit and approach this game and max out your skill set at a certain faction or a certain color of player board and just anticipate always getting that same one with that same strategy every time. You have to be able to kind of change up your strategy every time you play that. But that's what I think, and obviously that's my favorite game of all time. What do you all think?
I've never made any bones that I struggle with Terra Mystica. This isn't that same family. I agree with you on the variable setup. That makes this one feel a lot better to me than Terra Mystica does to me. So I'm still not sure it's my favorite, but I definitely didn't have the same feeling as I did when I played Terra Mystica. It felt a lot more balanced to me. It didn't feel like somebody who knows, like Ben said, one faction. Because it's so differential, I think it would be very challenging to be like, oh, this is my race. I play it exactly A, B, C, D, E, F. Because you might have different lands, you might have different, there's enough variability there that I think it, in my mind, adds to the replayability of this one. So it felt a lot better to me than Terra Mystica for me.
So I am curious regarding those variable player setups. Have any of you played a game of it where there's been an obvious, real bad combination where somebody just, the two or three things they had really were a bad combo, or does it seem pretty balanced? I've only played maybe twice, I think just once. So I'm curious about that, if any of that's happened.
Since this game is on BGA, that means I've gotten about 20 plus plays now of it. And I haven't seen anyone with a player combination that really stunk because the combination stunk. I've seen some bad play on BGA, right? If people are checking the game out for the first time or something like that, and they maybe don't have an experience or aren't, they don't have the 100 plus plays of Terra Mystica that I do, struggle with it a bit. Yeah, sure. But that's usually more, I would account for that as more of a learning experience and maybe not necessarily knowing the game well enough than a faction imbalance. And in the in-person plays, I haven't seen that come up at all. In fact, I've really struggled at trying to win at this game compared to my win ratio, particularly for in-person play with Terra Mystica, which goes a long ways to showing how I think much more well-balanced that is, because it really does make for an experience that you have to, I'm sure with a ton of plays, it's it will start to edge out like, okay, when I play this combo, I know I need to do these things. But right now it's still every time I play it and every time I see it, it's okay, now I have to kind of react and think my way through what might be the best way. And sometimes I make mistakes because I'm certainly not a savant genius at board games myself. So I think that's a big piece of this, is that, for most of the regular board game players, that, you're not going to get it probably perfect, and this game forces you to adjust your strategies every time you play.
So I'll say with Terra Mystica, I struggled sometimes with different races because they didn't match my play style. What I do like with Age of Innovation is that you can have a race and then you can, pair it with other components that kind of you can match your play style no matter which race you get or which other, what other components you have. So it's a lot, for me, it seems a lot more flexible and forgiving that way. I would also like to point out that this has a nice theme where it's adds, like, you got the terraforming the world portion of it, but that you're also innovating, like, and growing your world, like, culturally or educationally, like, so you've got this other little additional theme on top of it, which I think also appeals to a greater audience too. So I don't know. But that's my take on it. I've not played this nearly as much as Conesy has. So
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I think that wraps up Age of Innovation from Capstone Games and Feurerland Spiel. Suzanne, why don't you tell us a little bit about the next game?
all right. So our next game is Windmill Valley. This is a new game that Board and Dice recently published. So Windmill Valley is going to transport you to the scenic Dutch countryside of the late 19th century, where you and up to 3 other players, so it can play up to 4, become tulip farmers and entrepreneurs. And if that's not enough to grab your attention, this is inspired by the iconic Bollum route, which this game has gotten me to look into that more. But you're going to basically be building windmills, cultivating violent tulip fields, and trading for rare tulip bulbs. What's unique with this game is that you have these wheels that you are going to rotate in the middle of your board and your windmill board to strategically choose your actions, whether you're planting tulips, expanding your windmills, hiring helpful workers, or securing different contracts, which are going to give you some rewards at the end of the game. The gameplay for Windmill Valley typically lasts around 60 to 90 minutes if people know how to play the game. And that is a really great time frame, I found, because it provides a strategic yet manageable gaming session that is going to balance kind of the pacing and some in-depth play game really into this. It's going to use several different mechanics, such as endgame bonuses, multi-use cards, and a unique rondel. So that is kind of Windmill Valley in a nutshell. I think everyone should check it out because it's just this beautiful theme with tulips and windmills, and it's a game.
It's a game. Yeah, we established that last time.
Yeah.
Why do you want to play it, Suzanne?
Because it's a game. So, but I don't know. So I think the rest of you have all played this game also at least once. What do you guys think of Windmill Valley?
So I'll say the first time I heard about this game and saw this game, the theme, I was not into it. Didn't appeal to me. I mean, I don't know, flowers and windmills and the Dutch countryside or whatever. Just there was no draw for me based on, well, judging a game by its cover, I suppose. Uh, but when I sat down to play, I was very pleasantly surprised at how the game plays and the mechanics and just the combination of mechanics and different choices that you get to make. One thing I really liked was the ability to upgrade your action gears as you play, which you rotate to choose what actions you can take, and sort of boosting specific actions or finding a tile that lets you take 2 actions at once sometimes. Really, really like that. And I felt overall just all the mechanisms, all the mechanics really smoothly work together and just really a super pleasant game to play. Really liked it, and I have learned my lesson not to judge a game by its cover. I think
And
this is a
instead,
really good
play a
game.
game because it's a game.
And the funny thing is when I saw this game, I was actually really interested in playing with it. And it's not because I'm a particularly big flower person. I think it was just because I read the back and I looked at some of the things and I said, oh, this could be really interesting. And I will say it, even thinking that going in, I feel like it exceeded my expectations. There was a lot of strategic depth, like Justin alluded to. There's these dual wheels that you're spinning and you're trying to line things up. And just like in Zolkin or something like that, where you've got this big rotating dial, you've got two rotating dials, and sometimes somebody's like, I'm going to speed up and I'm going to skip an action, and other times you're like, whoa, I want to slow it down, and you can all do it independently in a way. But I really liked the fact that when I hit the end game, and I think early in the game I picked a sort of strategy, and I kind of forgot somewhere in the middle what I was doing. But I was pleasantly surprised when we hit the end, because I felt like we had 4 different people playing, maybe 5, and everybody kind of picked a different strategy. And I think we all ended up fairly close in points at the end. Like when we first started tallying, I was like on the lower end, but some of the decisions I made earlier got me a lot more points in a couple of key areas more than other people. So like, even though you might be like, 15, 20 points behind somebody else, man, there's a lot of points in that end game scoring strategically where you can line up and like sort of combo things to get multiple points in the end. And it was really kind of fun to see that mechanic at the end, because there was not like this 40-point spread at the end where you felt like somebody ran away with the game. So
Yeah.
it was just, like you said, short but fun, like very strategic.
I've only played this with 2 players, and I will say that I'm with Justin, absolutely. This game, thematically, visually, does nothing for me. That official sound effect can be downloaded as part of this episode for future use by Whisker Dice. Anyways, what I was going to say, though, is that it floored me in how fun it was to play. The wheels, the way they work, that kind of double gear rondel mechanism where you never get quite the same combination because of the way the gears work for the 2 different possible action combinations you can select, and it's such a very interesting little game. And what it really proves to me is that I can still judge a game by its cover. I think that's part of what you have to do in the reviewer space. But I should always trust Board and Dice, because Board and Dice has not steered me wrong yet on a game, other than maybe Origins. But is it Origins First Builder or something like that?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one.
It was okay, but it seemed a little short. But we need to play with the expansion and figure out if we like if that helps. But yeah, overall, Windmill Valley was a pleasant surprise, and I definitely can tell why people are talking about this one, because it is actually really good. Got enough meat on its bones to be a real thinky game, but still very approachable especially for a Board and Dice game. Usually Board and Dice is a much more heavy game, and one that's full of color and prettiness, which seems to be something new from Board and Dice in the last year or so, since they launched Nucleum and a couple other games. So I'm really excited to see what else comes out in their direction next. Maybe stay tuned for our Spiel lesson video on YouTube to find out if Board and Dice made that list for top 10 games we're excited about for that as well.
Well, that wraps up the games we've been playing. So please check out wiscodice.com for links to all those games we discussed. And while we're at it, don't forget to leave a review of this podcast wherever you download podcasts. Next, we're going to move on to our main topic, our main game, Trick or Trivia.
That wasn't very scary.
Well, I've got the shivers, but I'm going to try to match Ben's score this time.
I'm ready to outscore myself from last time. We're ready. Let's go.
All right. Good evening, ghouls and goblins, witches and warlocks. Welcome to Trick or Trivia. the spooky game show where your knowledge of Halloween, horror, and all things creepy could make or break you. Tonight, we'll test your wits on some of the scariest and most sinister board games ever created. From haunted houses to eldritch evils, new terrors will arise with each new question. Do you have the guts to face the fearsome games we've dug up from the darkest corners of the board game world, or will tonight's trick or trivia send you screaming into the night? Let's find out, if you dare.
I feel like there was probably some clues in that intro.
I'm giving away nothing.
I'm focusing. I'm ready.
All right, folks. Our first category tonight, we're going to be playing Trick or Trivia over 5 rounds with different categories. And our first category tonight is called Highly Regarded Horror. And to start the game, we're going to do a little Family Feud style thing. So I have scoured the internet and looked at lists of top Halloween, horror, and generally spooky games from a bunch of different sources. I hope this will kind of get us familiar with some of the big names in scary games and might give you a little preview of some of the games that will show up in questions later. It'll be a little different from Family Feud. I have right here the top 5 spooky board games in front of me from across the internet. And so when I give the word, you can buzz in, make a guess. If your guess is in the top 5, you'll get a point. And if it's not, another player can then immediately buzz in and go ahead and make a guess. So with that said, let's get started. You may begin.
Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Matt says Betrayal at House on the Hill. That is our number 2. Very good. Number 2 board game on my list here. So that's 1 point for Matt.
All
Okay.
right.
I see Suzanne buzzed in.
Nemesis.
Nemesis. I'm sorry. Nemesis is not one of the top 5.
Mansions of Madness.
Ding, ding, ding. Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition, which I'll give you, is the number 1 on all these top 10 lists. So, point for Ben. We've got 3 games left on the top 5.
I've already outscored from last time.
I'm going to go with Zombicide.
Oh, I did see Suzanne buzz in just before
Yep.
that. I'm sorry, Matt. Suzanne?
Reign of Cthulhu.
No, I'm sorry. That is not correct.
one.
Matt,
Okay.
I'll just take yours as the next one here. Zombicide, also not in the top 5.
What was the?
It's a
Are
top
we still in
5.
the same original top 5?
Oh,
Top 5.
Top 5. Yep. Suzanne.
Chaos in the Old World.
No, sorry.
Is she on
not
a
in the top
list
5.
over there? She's going off.
I did homework. I wrote notes. I have
Oh,
3
you've got
pages of notes on horror games.
Wow.
right.
But clearly,
Arkham
I did
Horror,
not
the
say the
board
right
game.
things.
Yeah, I think that's a fair.
Arkham Horror, the board game. Sorry, Ben, that is not in the top 5.
Ooh,
Suzanne.
Arkham Horror, the card game.
Arkham Horror, the card game is in the top 5. It is number 4. So that's one for
All right.
Suzanne.
Really popular
2 to go.
horror games.
Eldritch Horror.
That is a good guess, but it is not in the top 5.
Ooh, there's something super obvious I should be thinking of.
Kingdom Death Monster.
Ooh, that would be-
Oh, yeah. Nope. Sorry, not in the top 5. on
I
this list.
clearly looked at a whole different list than you did.
If we can't
Oh,
get
Cthulhu
these,
Wars.
we can call it. Oh, sorry. Cthulhu Wars, I heard from Ben. Again, sorry. Not
We're
in
just
the
going to
top
shout board games until we find these remaining 2.
How about everybody gets one more guess, and then we'll close this round out, and I'll
All
tell you
right,
what.
Suzanne had a guess.
All right.
Suzanne.
Final Girl.
Final Girl, not in the top 5. Not of the survey that I've done. I'm sorry.
You
Matt,
surveyed
you
your
got anything?
past.
I'm going to go with, and I don't think it's on the list, but I'm going to say Last Night on Earth.
Ooh, no, that is not one of them.
One I really enjoy, but not on the list.
One Night Werewolf or Werewolf.
Ooh, not in the top 5. I'm sorry.
Wow.
All right, so we're going to
So-
close round 1 at this point. So the number 3 was Horrified, the movie monster game.
Okay.
And
No.
number 5 on this list was Dead of Winter. The way I did this was basically counting how many times a game appeared on like a top 10 list or a top spooky games
Oh, that's
list,
pretty inventive.
and
Yeah,
sort of
cool.
which ones had the most out of all those lists was how I generated this top 5. So at the end of that, we've got each of you with 1 point. What we're doing in round 2 here, and this is maybe going to be a little trickier. I'm not sure. So these aren't the top 5. These are the next 5 spots, 6 through 10 out of this survey that I did. Same game. We're just looking for something that's in essentially the top 10, but not some of the ones that we've already mentioned. And maybe these games have already been mentioned in some of your guesses. Who knows?
Oh, that just
More.
made it really hard.
Arkham Horror for Ben. Yes, absolutely. That is in the list. 1 point for Ben. Suzanne, I see.
All right. Cthulhu Death May Die.
I'm sorry, that is not on the list.
Eldritch
What the
Horror.
Matt chimes in with Eldritch Horror. That is on the list.
All right.
Point for Matt. We have 3 to go. Suzanne.
All right. Blood on the Clock Tower.
Ooh, no, sorry.
What's the? I should know this one.
I will say one of these games has already been mentioned. 2 of them have not. Suzanne.
Shadows of Brimstone.
Oh, interesting. No, not on this one.
That was on several top lists that I looked at.
My Father's Keeper.
I know what game you're talking about. My Father's Work.
My Father's Work. Yeah.
That is not in the
Top 10.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Abomination.
No, Abomination's not on there. Sorry.
I didn't think it would be, but
No, Suzanne.
Oh shoot, that was sorry. I didn't mean to hit it buzz in that time. That was a premature buzzing.
Okay.
I will say I did not write down what was in the top 5, so now I don't remember which ones we've gone over or haven't. So like
I'll lay them out for you if you want to hear what they were.
okay, that
All
would
right,
be great.
The top 5 were Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Horrified, Arkham Horror the Card Game, and Dead of Winter.
I'm going to go with Nemesis.
You know, I think Nemesis was close to being in this list, but it is not in the top 10.
Ooh.
Okay.
Eldritch Horror.
I believe that was said already.
You said that as the
I
board
I
game.
said it for the
I think-
top 5. I didn't think I said it for this 5.
That's how you got
Matt
a point.
did, though. Matt, one of you got a point for Eldritch Horror.
Oh, okay.
So the 3 that are left,
All right.
that was already said.
Did we say Nemesis yet for the second
Yeah,
round?
we did.
Yep.
Did. Okay.
Nemesis just got guessed.
How about
Oof.
Legendary Encounters, the Alien edition?
No, sorry.
That one is pretty scary, I'm just gonna say.
Let's see. Let me see if I can give you some quick hints. We have a social deduction game as one of them.
Okay, so
Werewolf.
One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Yes, indeed.
all
For
right.
Ben. We have a hidden movement game.
The
Stifling
Whitechapel.
Dark.
Beast.
I heard Whitechapel from Matt. Beast. Both of those not correct.
Stifling Dark?
Not
No,
Stifling
Beast.
Dark.
What's
Fury
the?
of Dracula.
That's
Fury
the
of
other one.
Dracula.
Yeah.
That's the one. The point
I
for
just
Ben.
couldn't get there in my head fast
Man, I might
enough.
actually not be terrible at this.
No, you're pretty good at this.
And
Justin
one
gets
more
to
to
make all
go.
the games now.
Yeah. One more to go if you guys want to try for it.
Ooh, what's our any hints?
It is let's see.
It's the number 10.
It was talked about in our 5-player games episode. It was one of the games that
Ooh.
Australia.
I gave a clue for.
Oh, you
Not
gave
Australia.
it for.
No.
Mysterium.
Mysterium for Ben. Wow, there we go. All right, so that is the end of our highly regarded horror round. Let's take a look at these scores
done.
before we move on.
We're done. I won. It's all good.
Total it now.
Ben is indeed in the lead with 5 points.
Way
Matt.
to go, Ben.
Good
You're
job.
gonna win a game against
Can I have some of those points from last time? Can I just add those to my last time score? I'll just take a penalty here to add them to last time score.
No, then you'll lose this time.
That's fine, as long as I have something from to show on my score for last time.
So Ben with 5, Matt with 2, and Suzanne with 1. And
Yay
that
me.
brings us to our second round and to our next category, a love of Lovecraft.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, first
Mansions of Madness.
question.
Did I get it right?
All right, first question. The Cthulhu mythos of H.P. Lovecraft is one of the most popular themes for board games. In fact, there are hundreds of games on Board Game Geek that have Cthulhu in the title. Which of these Cthulhu-themed games is not an actual board game? A. Cthulhu Death May Die. B. Reign of Cthulhu. C. Cthulhu Reborn. D. Smash Up, the obligatory Cthulhu set. Or E. Cthulhu Hastur La Vista, baby.
I see Suzanne buzzed
What
in.
was
Suzanne
the
buzzed.
third one? The third one.
The third one I
can't
said
forget. It said
was
Cthulhu something.
Cthulhu Reborn.
Yes.
That's your guess?
Yeah, that's gonna be my guess.
That is correct. Cthulhu Reborn is not a Cthulhu game.
Yay.
What is that? Is that a RPG?
That's just something I made up.
Ah. I mean,
So
it
it's not a
sounded
game
good.
yet.
Yeah, no, exactly. Trying to be tricky. Some of the other good Cthulhu games you'll find out there: Don't Mess with Cthulhu, Cthulhu Kitchen, Sticky Cthulhu, and Cthulhu 500, which is a mythos-themed car racing game.
Ben, you might need that for the cones. 500.
Yeah, the cone cut.
Yeah.
Now, Cthulhu Kitchen. Are
Yeah.
you learning what to make food for Cthulhu?
I don't know. So here, real quick,
Calamari.
if we can look away from screens, I don't know. I was going to give a bonus point to whoever can spell Cthulhu correctly on the first try.
Oh, that's not me.
CHTULU. That's wrong, but
That is
Wrong. Sorry.
CTHULHU.
That is correct. Another point for Ben.
Yeah,
Well done.
I'm never gonna win any spelling bees. Even if I'm looking at it, I will spell this word wrong. But I'm looking at Cthulhu Kitchen.
Yeah, I don't know what that one's about.
It's a card game. It's not in English though, so I don't.
But
I
there's
think it's
lots
Japanese,
of
and my
weird Cthulhu
Japanese
games
is
out
not
there.
good enough.
well, squid, kitchen, Japanese,
Yep. Well, let's move on to our next question. So, H.P. Lovecraft said that fear of the unknown was the greatest fear of all. But for board gamers, sometimes the scariest thing is just not playing board games. Which of these spooky games does not feature player elimination? Cthulhu Wars, Nemesis, Betrayal at House on the Hill, or Unmatched Cobble and Fog?
I'll go with Unmatched Cobble and Fog.
That says Unmatched Cobble and Fog. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Suzanne.
Well, Cthulhu Wars. You don't completely
That
get a player
is
eliminated.
Correct.
Oh, that's right.
Cthulhu Wars does not technically have player elimination. Even if all your pieces are wiped out, you may always place a cultist, I believe, to essentially come back into the game. So Cthulhu Wars it is.
You are
And a
correct,
point
yeah.
for Suzanne. Nice.
Coming for your Conzi.
Yeah, it's all right.
You're the one who introduced me into H.P. Lovecraft, and yet you're
whole book of
behind on it.
tales that is probably going to be moving up to your library.
All right, folks. It's time for Name That Game.
Woo!
All right.
So there are many great Lovecraftian games from Fantasy Flight Games, but some of them have very similar themes. Let's see if you can identify the game from this short description from Board Game Geek. I'm going to give you the names of 6 games, and then I'm going to give you 5 descriptions, one at a time. And whoever can identify the name just by the game, just by the description, will earn that point. Does that make sense? So one of these ones I'm going to mention right now is not an option, just to kind of keep things interesting. But it's all Fantasy Flight games, and these are the ones that I'm going to be describing in just a second. We have Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, Call of Cthulhu the card game, Elder Sign, Arkham Horror the card game, and Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. So those are the choices.
Mhm.
And now I'm going to give a description, see if you can name that game. All right. The description is: work as a team to save the town of Arkham from monsters and a great old one.
Arkham Horror, the card game.
Ooh, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Can anyone else get
Eldritch
this?
Horror.
It is not Eldritch Horror.
It could be any of these.
Well, the problem is like Elder Sign just takes place in a single life. Like I'm thinking of the other ones, like Eldritch Eldritch Horror, I think, is the one that's like all over, or Arkham Horror is all over the globe. So it's not just a single town.
Eldritch Horror is the one that's all over the world.
Yeah. And
Do you have
then
a guess, Matt?
Well,
I'll just go with Elder Sign, but I don't think it's right.
I'm sorry, it is not correct. I think we'll call it there. You've all made one guess.
Yep.
So this one was Arkham Horror, the board game.
Interesting.
All right, next description. Investigate the horrors of Arkham while courting cosmic doom.
Arkham Horror, the card game.
Ding ding, Arkham Horror, the card game is
I'm gonna keep
correct.
saying the same game until I get it right.
You're bound to get it one out of
this is not Rochambeau, Ben.
Okay, so that's a point for Ben. Let's go to the next description. Roll the dice to investigate the horrors of Arkham alone or as a group.
Elder Sign.
Ding ding, Matt's got it with Elder Sign.
Yeah.
The only dice game on this list, I believe.
I was just gonna let Matt have that one.
He knows it's in my library, so it was a gimme.
Okay, moving on. Investigators trek across the globe to stop the Ancient One apocalypse.
Eldritch Horror.
Eldritch Horror, correct. 1 point for Ben. And our last description. Unravel mysteries in Arkham with your investigative team in this app-guided game.
Oh, Mansions of
Madness.
Madness.
Suzanne buzzed
Suzanne
in. I'm going to have to call Suzanne. And
Yep.
yes, it is Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. Of course. Cthulhu the card game was not an option. And from my understanding, it has been replaced by Arkham Horror the card game anyways at this point. All right. So after round 2, we have Ben in the lead with 8, Matt with 3, and Suzanne coming up with 4.
Apparently,
So-
this is a genre I actually know the games for.
Yeah, I think half of your game collection used to be horror-themed card games, I think. Or horror-themed games.
I don't know if we'd say half, but there might be a decent percentage.
Okay, you've
When I
had quite a
met
few
you
over
in
the
your
years.
kitchen, half of them were horror.
Many of the games so far that have been stated we may own.
All right. Well, let's move on to round 3 with movies and monsters. Horror movies are a big source of inspiration for board games, and many horror movies have been adapted for the tabletop. Which of these popular horror franchises does not have an official board game version? Your choices are Friday the 13th, The Thing, Stephen King's The Dark Tower, or The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Stephen King's The Dark Tower.
Ben, with Stephen King's The Dark Tower, that is correct. There is a board game called The Dark Tower or Return to the Dark Tower. And if you go back to episode 127 of the Wisco Dice Tabletop Gaming Podcast, where we review Return to Dark Tower, I mentioned that when I played for the first time, I thought that game was based on Stephen King book series, but in fact, there is no relation, and there is no Stephen King The Dark Tower board game. That is another point for Ben.
Suzanne, you might need to spit it out instead of hitting that buzzer.
I am not going to. If it means a couple less points so that my husband wins a game, it's fine.
Did you know that one?
Yes.
I did too.
Because
I think she buzzed in right after you said it.
Yeah, you were talking already, and I knew that because I paid attention to our podcast when we were recording about Dark Tower and Justin's trivia
I
on it.
knew that about Dark Tower, but I also knew that all the other 3 games had board game versions of some form at some iteration at some point in history.
Yes, that too, but
Most of those are actually fairly recent. I think the Texas Chainsaw one that I looked
probably
up was from
oldest,
like
right?
2023. So
Yeah, I think
those
that
are
was
pretty
fairly
recent.
recent, and
Yeah.
so was I don't know.
Thing too.
The Thing's got a couple that are fairly recent, 2018, something like that. Yeah.
they have it's a 2022 is I think the most recent The Thing board game is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they redid the old one, the old classic one, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's a Thing board game I think I've actually played. So
Oh, you have.
like not the 2022
one,
version, the older version of it.
I have that one, and I would like to play it sometime. So we should try to do that. But let's continue with trick or trivia. Next question for movies and monsters. The board game Horrified pits the players against the Universal monsters from Universal films. One of the original Universal monsters is not included in the game. Name that character.
Dracula?
Sorry, Matt, it is not Dracula.
No idea.
Don't know who is a universal monster versus any other type of monster.
Well, if you've played
If no one
Horrified,
can get this one, I do have a hint.
I've only played Horrified.
Was it the Mummy?
No, the Mummy is in the game.
Yeah, I thought so. It's not the vampire. It's not Dracula. It's not Mummy. I'm pretty sure the werewolf is in it.
it was a Swamp Thing. What are the original ones too from Universal? I'm trying to think of all the old Universal films. They're all black and white, and
This
I
might
never
be a
watched
deep
any
cut.
of them, so.
no, I've just seen them. They come up around Halloween all the time.
And I've legitimately never played the Horrified game, so I don't even know which monsters are included in it.
All right, so let me give you the monsters that are included, and then we'll see if. I think this is a tough one, but the monsters that are in the game are Frankenstein's monster, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, and Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Ooh, so now I'm really lost.
So this is definitely an older film.
And you had the Invisible. Did you say the Invisible Man was in there?
He's in there. So
And the werewolf.
I mean, you can't see him, but he's in there.
He's in there.
Thank you. Frankenstein, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Who's that? Who's the?
I'll give you one more. I'll give you another hint. I think we're not quite getting there. So you might hear this monster before you see him. And I'll also say that he wears a mask.
The Phantom of the Opera?
The Phantom of the Opera is correct.
I did not realize that was a Universal
That is one of the
monster.
original Universal monsters. And I think that film was.
That's just a crazy dude.
That's my favorite musical.
It is. It's one of mine too.
But yeah, Phantom of the Opera.
Obviously
not one of the.
I did not realize that was one of the original Universal films.
It was like, what do you hear before you see it? And
that
I asked, I'm like, well, none of the other monsters have masks.
The music, the organ playing.
If you're out there in the audience and you actually knew that one before Justin let us know, you have to let us know on our social media or shoot us an email. Find out all our contact information at whiskodice.com and pop that contact over.
I have a guess of which of our listeners will be beating all of us at this game. If
you shoot us an email, we might just send you a prize.
So sticking with the theme of horror movie board games, which of these official horror movie board game adaptations has the highest ranking on Board Game Geek? And no cheating, everybody, hands off keyboards. Which of these games has the highest rank? Alien, Fate of the Nostromo, Friday the 13th, Horror at Camp Crystal Lake, Scream, the game, The Thing, the board game, Halloween, or The Shining?
The Thing.
The Thing. Ben gets it. It is, in fact, The Thing, the board game, which is the newer one, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been my guess, but
it's actually a pretty, I remember playing the older version of it. It's actually a pretty decent game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I thought the redo was more of a remake of that original, but I haven't played it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's move to our next question. So there is only one horror movie-based board game that has made it into the Board Game Geek top 1,000 games. It is currently ranked 990. Again, no cheating, please. You can earn a bonus point if you can identify the game or the movie.
Well, is it Nemesis?
So Nemesis, while it is inspired heavily by Alien and the Aliens movies, it is not an official. So I'm talking about an official horror movie adaptation of a.
Going with the theme of the last question, I'm going to go with The Thing as the highest rated one.
No, so that was. It is not The Thing. It is a different game here. The Thing was the highest of the ones I listed, but it is not in the top.
The
1,000.
highest.
Yes.
Ooh.
It is. The Thing was 1101. ranked.
Can I have a guess after Conzi goes? That
No,
doesn't
go
count
ahead and
then?
shout it out.
Yeah, just shout it
Oh,
out.
I thought we were each getting one. Fury of Dracula.
So
That's also
so
not a movie.
it's not
That's
an
a
official board
movie.
game. Like it's not of a movie is what I'm trying to say. It's not like this was a movie and then we made it into a board game.
Oh,
So Fury of Dracula is definitely highly rated, but this is definitely specifically a movie. I will say some people might quibble with this being called a horror movie, but in its time, it definitely was.
Well, I'm out of ideas now.
Evil Dead, the board game?
Sorry, no. I can give you one last hint though. Da-dum.
Oh,
Da-dum.
Jaws.
It's Jaws. That's right, Suzanne.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I just have
That
horrible
movie
memories
gave
of that movie. It's blacked out of my head.
Yeah, that movie, I remember seeing that when I was fairly young too. That definitely did terrify me.
Yeah, nowadays by modern horror standards, it's maybe
still scary.
it's
it's scary. It's a thriller. But yeah, it's definitely, belongs in the horror movie Hall of Fame kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
It does.
So let's see. Our star after round 3 is still Ben with 10 points. Matt's sitting on 3 and Suzanne has come up to 6.
Uh-oh. I better get serious now.
Ben is still in the lead, but Suzanne's not that far behind.
I'm pretty sure I have to sweep all the remaining categories, or I'm just.
Well, it might be your category here. I don't know. It is time for round 4, and that means we're entering the zombie zone. So all these questions are going to be about zombie board games. Let's get started. There is one zombie-themed board game that has been nominated for a Spiel des Jahres award. Was it Zombicide, Zombie Teens Evolution, Tiny Epic Zombies, or Zombie Flux?
Matt, we're giving you a chance to get some points
I'll
here.
just go with Zombie Flux.
Sorry, Matt. It's not Zombie
I don't
Flux.
think that was right, but I have no idea.
I'm going to say Zombie Teens.
It is Zombie Teens Evolution.
Yep.
Was nominated, didn't win.
It actually looks like a fun zombie game.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it actually does look pretty neat.
Yeah.
A little bit of deep trivia there, I think, but it's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Well, you really had to use your brains for that one.
I think this category you shouldn't have to use your brain too much for.
Well, this one, maybe you will, maybe you won't for this next question. Zombicide, the popular co-op zombie survival game originally released in 2012 and since has spawned numerous other versions. In total, how many Zombicide core games have been made? And with core games, I'm talking like core main games, not expansions or promos or things like that.
And are you counting?
I will say that the way that I counted this is on a wiki for Zombicide. They were listed as core games.
Okay. 10.
Sorry, it is not
more
10.
than that.
I
Go
don't.
for it, Matt. Go for
I'm
it.
going to play the other way. I'm going to go with 5.
Oh, interesting. No, not 5.
No, it's way more than 10.
Oh.
Just the original, like, base Zombicide before it came out in 2nd edition, there were 4 playable standalone box sets for it. Then Zombicide 2nd edition came along. There's Zombicide Black Plague. There's the Sci-Fi Zombicide. There's the Marvel Zombicide. I'm sure there's a couple other standalone boxes in there. I think Black Plague had a couple of standalone boxes, but I kind of lost track. 12?
Ooh, sorry. I think we'll call this question, since it's not going to be very fun to just have you guys guess numbers.
Who says?
I will say that Ben was the closest, but the total count is 16.
Wow.
Yeah, and then there's sort of the classic Zombicides. There's the fantasy theme, the sci-fi theme.
Yeah, Plague.
And then a couple of superhero ones like Marvel Zombies,
What is
X-Men
the DC
Resistance, and Deceased is the DC one, which I think is a great name.
Yeah.
Deceased.
I knew there's a bunch.
Yeah, there are a bunch. And then billions of expansions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
No one got the points for that one, unfortunately.
Suzanne's still creeping up.
But what's this? It's Back from the Dead. It's Name That Game Zombie Edition. So we're going to play Name That Game again, guys. I have 6 zombie games. I'm going to give you 5 descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
The short descriptions from Board Game Geek, and you just need to identify which game I'm talking about. Are we ready?
Sure.
Yes.
First one. As you struggle to keep survivors alive, how will you value group versus personal needs?
Oh, Dead of
And I'm
Winter.
sorry, wait, I need to stop. Let's keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Hold
Oh.
on for guesses. I did not give you the list of games. You need the list of games. Doing this blind, I think, would be practically impossible. So here,
Actually, I just
here's the
changed
list
my
of games.
answer too.
So the games are Zombie Teens Evolution, Zombicide, Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, Tiny Epic Zombies, Dawn of the Zeds, and Dead of Winter. And I'll read this description again, and then you guys can jump in. As you struggle to keep survivors alive, how will you value group versus personal needs?
Dead of Winter.
Dead of Winter, Dead to Rights. Ben got that one.
I think I answered that one before we actually even had the list of games.
Oh, did you? I totally
Yes,
missed that.
that's all right. I said
Well,
Dead of Winter. No, that's fine. Conesy needs the points.
If you said it before, I didn't catch you saying it, but sure, if you said it
That's
before,
fine.
you should get it.
No, don't. I did, but don't.
You
She
did
should
say
at
it?
least get a point.
Yeah, I think we definitely you should at least get a point for that. We'll give you each a point. You got that out
I
of
would even give her a
nothing.
bonus point since she didn't have the list.
Yeah, that's up to you guys. I'm willing to give at least one extra 1 point here.
It's fine. If it comes down that we're somehow tied, then we can decide about that point. Anyway,
Okay.
What's the next one?
All right, next one. Take out zombies in your choice of a co-op, one versus many, or competitive game.
Zombicide.
Sorry, it is not Zombicide.
Tiny Epic Zombies?
Tiny Epic Zombies is correct. 1 point for Matt. All right, next one. A handful of survivors aim to survive the night against the zombie horde.
Last Night
Zombicide.
on Earth.
Beds.
I
I
think
said
I
Last
heard
Night on
Matt
Earth.
first, and that is correct. Last Night on Earth is
Uh,
the right answer, and I heard Matt first on that one. That was everyone
Oh, I
spoke at
didn't
once
say-
that time.
what did you say, Ben? What did you
He
You
say?
said
said
it wrong.
Yeah, I had it wrong too.
All right, we got 2 more to go. Here's the next one. Work together to kill zombies, improve skills, then kill more zombies.
Zombicide.
Zombicide. Ben got it just in before Suzanne.
Fine.
And the final, name that game. Cooperate to protect your town from zombie hordes. A game that evolves as you play.
There's
Dawn of Zeds. There's
Nope.
only 2 games left.
Teen
I
Zombies.
guessed wrong.
the Teen Zombie game.
Team
The
Zombies with
Zombicide.
Zombie Teens Evolution. So
Zombie Teens of
you had a little hint on that one. Matt got that.
Yeah.
Susan had just made it easy. There was only one.
I was
Only 2 left.
50-50 chance. Pick the wrong one. I've not played either of them, really.
Zombies, the game though so far in the zombies category.
No, that one is not in
There's
some
so
of my
many
questions.
good zombie games.
Pretty
though.
sure I still have it around here somewhere
No, you
Classic
don't.
though. Yeah,
with
that's a
about
classic.
8,000 zombie figures. Some of them glow in the dark.
What? Is this
Yeah.
hiding underneath your bed or something?
No,
I
it's
used to
somewhere in
own it.
the
I remember
library.
I didn't know that we still had it.
I think we do.
Someone should really organize our library.
Yeah.
What's the next category, Justin? Do we have more
Well,
fun?
let's look at the scores as we're going into our last round here. We have Ben with 12, Matt with 6, and Suzanne with 8. And there are more questions in this category, so I think it's not decided yet. Still have a game to play, folks. Guys, something's wrong. That's right. It's time for Something's Wrong, the round that will put your attention of detail to the test. So this is the category Something's Wrong. And the way these are going to work is I'm going to read a statement, and something about that statement is going to be incorrect. So it's going to be your job to buzz in and identify the specific thing that's wrong with the statement. If you get close to identifying the wrong thing, I'll award you the point unless someone else can buzz in and be more specific. Now, I do need to give credit where credit is due. This segment is based on the format of a game show on Dropout in YouTube called Actually, which, if you love nerdy things and trivia, I highly recommend you check out. It's great. With that said, I want to give you an example of how this is going to work. So I've got a question here that is not going to count for any points. It's just an example of how these questions are going to be. So I'm going to make this statement. Something about it is wrong, and you just need to identify what that is to earn the point. So here we go. In the game Catan, you'll be trying to settle the island of Catan. Each turn, dice are rolled, which may let you collect resources such as sheep, pumpkins, wood, brick, and ore. You'll use your resources to build settlements, cities, and roads, and you'll score points from your settlements and cities, as well as development cards and having the longest road.
Pumpkins.
Pumpkins, that is correct. The wrong thing in that statement was pumpkins. It is sheep, wheat, wood, brick, and ore. Pumpkins was wrong. So that point would go to Ben. The rest of these are.
How do I know Catan trivia?
Because you hate that game with a passion.
I don't hate, just dislike.
True.
I have games I truly hate. That is definitely not one.
You know Catan. You may not be your favorite game, but you know Catan.
Yeah. It's a classic. But it's not horror themed.
No, it is not. And the rest of these games are spooky board games. So here we go. Next statement. Popular board game YouTuber Rodney Smith is known for teaching rules to board games on his channel Watch It Played. He has covered many spooky themed games, such as Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, Blood on the Clock Tower, Arkham Horror, The Card Game, and Final Girl.
It's not Flannel Girl, it's Final Girl.
Sorry, Final Girl. That was simply.
Oh, I thought that was the question. What's wrong there?
Nope. I just spoke poorly. I'll read it again if you want me to. Do you want to hear the statement again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Popular board game YouTuber Rodney Smith is known for teaching rules to board games on his channel Watch It Played. He has covered many spooky themed board games, such as Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, Blood on the Clock Tower, Arkham Horror, The Card Game, and Final Girl. Not Final Girl.
I don't think he's covered Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition.
I'm sorry, Ben. He has. He has a teach for Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition.
Is
I didn't think his name was Rodney Smith. I thought it was.
No, it definitely is.
Okay.
That's definitely not it. And the channel is Watch It Played.
Watch It Played. I know that. Yeah. Ooh, so it's one of those games.
It's definitely one of those games, I bet.
Well, he wouldn't have done Blood on the Clock Tower because he doesn't usually do the big party. So he didn't teach Blood on the Clock Tower?
That is correct. Rodney does not have a teach for Blood on the Clock Tower.
Good job. Good deduction.
How do you teach that game without having? You threw me though with the Flannel Girl.
Flannel Girl.
That's easy. There's no Flannel Girl.
There needs a new name for a board game though. Flannel Girl might be a good game.
It wouldn't shock me if there was one out there, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to our next statement. In Betrayal at House on the Hill, before the haunt starts, you make a haunt roll at the end of your turn. If you roll less than the total number of omen cards all players have drawn this game, the player that started the haunt with this roll now becomes the traitor during the haunt.
That's not true.
Think that's right.
You don't always become the person. It's usually based on the roll. You determine that it can be random how it's determined. It's not always the person who made the roll who becomes the traitor.
That is correct. It is not always the person who makes the roll. There can be things
There's
based
like
on
all
a scenario
sorts of
that would change
criteria,
who becomes the traitor. Absolutely.
Like somebody sometimes is carrying an object. It's all sorts of things.
We haven't played Betrayal enough.
Good job,
I
Matt.
don't know that I've ever played it with you, Conzi. I've played
No,
it
we played
twice at
it.
conventions.
We played it a couple of times, I think.
Okay.
My son
At
always
least
loves that
once,
one.
just to play our copy before if we decided. I don't remember. I think we kept it.
Yeah.
But we were just trying to decide if we were going to liquidate it.
Gotcha. Anyway, moving
Okay.
on.
Moving on. Next statement. In Mysterium, multiple players play as clairvoyants, while one player plays the role of a restless spirit, sending the clairvoyants silent visions to help them discover the details of the ghost's murder. The ghost player hands out dreamlike vision cards to the clairvoyants and must not speak to the other players at any time during the game.
Clairvoyance is wrong. It should be psychics.
That is not the thing I'm looking for, although I do think clairvoyance is correct. Suzanne, did you have a guess?
They can speak to the other players. They
That
can
is
tell them if they
correct.
got it yes or right or wrong type of thing.
Correct. The ghost is allowed to speak to indicate that a player has made a correct guess. The rules do mention, though, that if you want to, you can play the game without speaking at all and give like knocks or nods or shakes of the head to indicate if people are right or wrong, but it is not strictly enforced. Correct. And I am pretty sure it's clairvoyance, but I read some rules to come up with these questions, so I was reading the rules of the games to make these.
I'm going to say the player roles in the actual rulebook does call them out as psychics, not clairvoyants.
You got to be kidding me! Somewhere it says clairvoyance. Okay. Well, that's maybe a half a point for Ben.
But I should have caught the other rule. I get run this game all the time.
Well, that's why I was like, "What are you focusing on that when the other one you're doing it wrong every time?"
And then he said it over and over again, and I thought, I knew that I was positive that piece was wrong, so I kind of tuned out the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay, sure, but all right.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next question. We've got 2 more to go. In the board game Nemesis, you wake up on a spaceship in the infirmary with amnesia and have a difficult time remembering the layout of the ship. You eventually draw the attention of an alien species known as intruders, the name given to the alien organisms by the ship's AI. Some of the types of intruders include larvae, creepers, breeders, and a queen.
So you don't wake up in the infirmary, you wake up in the hibernatorium.
That is correct. Well done. It is, in fact, the hibernatorium. All right. This is our last question of the game, folks. Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition, is an app-driven board game set in the same universe as Eldritch Horror and Elder Sign. In the game, you'll discover the mysteries and horrors of Arkham's cursed mansions, walk the streets of Innsmouth, and visit other terrifying locations. You'll join with up to 4 other investigators, choosing from such characters in the base game as Preston Fairmont the Millionaire, William Yorick the Gravedigger, Rita Young the Athlete, Agatha Harkness the Parapsychologist, and Father Mateo the Priest.
Oh, the first one.
I don't think Agatha Harkness is in the game.
That is correct, Matt.
Oh,
she's from the new Disney show.
Agatha Harkness is a character from
right.
Marvel. I believe the correct name is Agatha Crane, the parapsychologist. So Matt gets that last point.
Good job, Matt.
And that is going to bring us to the end of Trick or Trivia, everybody.
Woo-hoo!
Let's see where we stand. Our winner tonight is Ben with a whopping 13 points and a suitably spooky number for the win as well. Suzanne was in second with 10, and Matt did come up. He rallied at the end there to come up with 8 points. So good job to everybody.
Thank
you
for
Trick or Treat.
I think huge thank you goes out to Justin for putting this together. This was awesome. So I had a good time.
Yeah, no, I've absolutely loved it. I've loved doing these fun trivia game the game within the game podcast episodes. I hope everybody out there enjoys it as well. Thanks. Yeah, thank you so much, Justin, for putting this one together. We will get back to these sometime, hopefully in 2025, as we have a couple of extra special episodes planned to cash out the rest of the year. If you've enjoyed listening to these game shows or enjoyed playing along with us as we've chatted, make sure you let us know on our social media, our whether it's Facebook or or Threads or Instagram, or you can pop over to our Discord. All the contact information, of course, you can find is on wiscodice.com. Hey, Matt, what was that website?
Wiscodice.com.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, wiscodice.com. That's definitely it. So head on over there. There's a contact page. You can get all of our contact information. And, of course, we'd love to hear from you even further. So if you have any feedback at all, shoot it over to us at our email, wiscodice@gmail.com. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. We do appreciate it. And just to recap real quick what we went over today on today's show, we had, of course, the very spooky trick or trivia, and then we caught up on our games that we've been playing, and that would include my new favorite, Age of Innovation from Capstone Games and Feurerland Speile, and Windmill Valley from Board and Dice.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you leave a review of this show wherever your favorite place is to find podcasts. Oh, and by the way, give us a like on our Facebook page. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest while you're at it. If you haven't looked recently, make sure you catch up on the blog at wiscodice.com. Hey, Brian, what's that site?
Ah, darn, I forget. Justin, what's our website again?
Wiscodice.com.
That's right, it's wiscodice.com. And until next time, everyone, peace out.